Well, it can vary a little bit depending on whether or not I'm involved in a large project or just dealing with small things. But for the most part, it's come in and code. I mean, we're programmers at heart, so whether we're working on a big thing or a small thing, you know, we're reviewing requirements, whatever, it's all about web-based projects and getting them to work. I've always been a little bit of a computer geek, even when I was a little kid. You know, I started programming my little programs in BASIC and stuff like that, so it was natural that I would fall into something computer-related, I think. Of course, when I was a kid, I was determined I was going to make games for a living. But it turns out that's a lot of work, and they don't get paid all that well. So I stuck with something a little more 9 to 5. It's very important with what we do because most of the projects that we deal with are large and complex and have multiple people working on them at the same time. And the combination of those two things mean that those people need to work closely together and understand what each person is doing. So that, because it's pretty easy if you're working on a project that's complicated to mess up the other person that's working on it if you do something that gets into the area they're tinkering with or something like that. So you have to be careful not to step on anybody else's toes at the same time you're trying to get your own stuff done. Communication skills are actually very important because we get called into meetings where we help actually design these applications, or you know, sometimes we have to explain to someone why something can't work the way they envisioned that it might, or something like that. So a lot of times you have to take what ultimately is a very complicated procedure and break it down and make it simple so that people from other departments who don't have the same background can understand why things need to be a certain way, or why they can't be a certain way, or why things would simply be better if they were done differently. Well, intelligence, of course, you know, this is a very technical job, so we need somebody that's smart enough to be able to do it. But creativity is actually very important to a programmer, because I view coding, and you know, maybe my opinion is a bit biased, but I think it's half science and half art. There's an elegance to good code that people don't necessarily understand until they've seen it. And it really is a process of taking a complicated procedure and breaking it down and making it into simple parts. And I think you have to be able to really think things through in a creative way to be able to do that at times. One of the things that I like about my job is I'm not entirely sure how it's going to change in the next 5 or 10 years. You know, we always have to keep up to date with what's going on. And things are always changing. You know, just recently we're seeing obviously a very large shift towards mobile. I think we've reached a point now where almost half of the traffic on the internet right now is from mobile devices, which, you know, as you know, we're getting ready to redesign our site. Mobile is certainly something that we'll be keeping in mind there. But 5 years from now, you know, who knows what it could be. You know, maybe it will be geared more towards wearable devices. You know, you've got your Google Glasses already starting to come out. There's other things, three-dimensional, you know, holographic displays and things like that. Ultimately, the more important, you know, I just saw a commercial for a new Samsung smartwatch that's coming out.
That thing is awesome.
There's always something new. So, you know, where the tech will be in 5 or 10 years, you know, who knows? It could be anywhere. It could be implants for all we know.
That's very true.